The following program deals with a controversial subject. The theories expressed are not the only possible interpretation. Viewers are invited to make a judgment based on all available information. This program contains images which may be disturbing to younger or sensitive viewers. Parental discretion is advised.
Tonight on In Search Of. A touch of the hand, a prayer to heaven, and the sick are suddenly cured. Or are they? Countless people pin their hopes on the claims of faith healers. Are these con artists or miracle workers channeling the awesome power of God? Is the future a world of technological marvels or mad scientists and man-made monsters? We'll look for answers when we go in search of the real Frankenstein. Is this the actual face of Jesus Christ? Was his image burned into this fabric during a supernatural resurrection? We'll offer startling scientific research into the Shroud of Turin. Many believe that visitors from space laid the cornerstones of modern civilization. But this man claims a blood connection still flows in our veins. Join the shocking search for alien ancestors. I'm Mitch Pileggi, and this is In Search Of. Faith healers. Thousands claim they are miracle workers, picking up where medical science leaves off. But can the hand of man channel God's salvation when all else fails? Skeptics call them the cruelest hucksters on the planet, but many claim faith healers save lives. Soulless charlatans or heavenly healers? You be the judge.
I want to see the hands of other people that I have prayed for that God has healed. Would you slip your hands up and wave them around and holler, amen? Yeah!
I have dealt with thousands and thousands of cases of demon possession. Go to torment. You let this man come back. Go to torment.
I touch you in the name of Jesus. May God bless you. May God keep you.
I've seen millions of miracles under his ministry.
Father, touch this lady in Jesus' mighty name and make her whole.
Witch doctors, exorcists, faith healers. When conventional medicine fails and doctors run out of answers, desperate people seek a supernatural cure.
I had an aunt that was blind in one eye all her life, way before I was born, and she got healed, and she could see out of that blind eye.
10 years ago, I was healed of bone cancer.
I saw a little crippled boy, and when they took the braces off, that child ran all over the theater.
There are 200 children in the world, or people in the world, that wouldn't have been here without my work. I've been able to cure chronic fatigue syndrome. I've been able to literally cure many people with arthritis.
Critics claim that faith healing is often staged, or that the patient is suffering from an imaginary illness cured by the power of suggestion. But new medical research counters that skepticism.
Religion and a person's faith does seem to play a role in their health.
Dr. Harold G. Koenig, author of The Healing Power of Faith, is a professor at Duke University Medical Center and the director of Duke's Center for the Study of Religion, Spirituality, and Health.
Today, there are nearly 80 medical schools that have courses on religion, spirituality, and medicine that helps to train doctors what this means, what role religion plays in the lives of patients when they are sick with health problems. As we have faith, that initiates a healing process in our body that could have some remarkable changes in physical health.
Reverend Leroy Jenkins has been a faith healer since 1960, after a serious injury put his own faith to the test.
You are healed by the power of God. Mighty name.
I had an accident where this plate glass window had bursted and fell through and severed my arm.
Jenkins almost died on the operating table. Doctors reattached his arm, but it developed gangrene. They told him they would have to amputate.
I had planned to get in my car, drive 100 miles an hour, hit this big oak tree big as this room here, and end it all.
Instead, he ended up at a revival meeting.
The preacher looked back there and he said, "Where's the man that cut his arm off? To come up here."
The preacher told Jenkins that he would be healed if he believed.
So I said, "Well, I believe this can happen." When I said that, I felt this fire. Like my whole arm was burning. Just, it's hard to describe. And I looked, and my fingers was moving.
Even more amazing, a few minutes later, Jenkins healed someone else.
The lady runs up to me and she said, "Oh, I've got a stiff wrist for 17 years. And she said, "And would you heal me?" And I said, "Yeah." And her wrist, I took it with my other hand, it popped. And I went immediately into the ministry, not even knowing how to read. And God taught me everything that I have learned through experiences.
For you are healed in the power of the Lord Jesus Christ. Be thou made whole. Somebody praise the Lord with her.
He started his own church in Delaware, Ohio. Known as the man with the miracle arm, Jenkins claims he has healed countless people with his touch.
There's like a supernatural thing. My hand, it feels like a small voltage of electricity in my hand all the time.
And I'm not kidding, I feel it burning. Same way it was the night I was healed in Atlanta, Georgia.
I saw Reverend Jenkins pray for a little girl that was 4 years old and was blind and couldn't see at all. And God healed her and she walked away seeing.
Touching somebody and them falling backwards and getting healed is ridiculous. It's ludicrous. But then when you research it for 6 months out of your life and you find that there's something is happening, something really is going on.
Damian Chapa first met Jenkins when he was 8 years old.
I saw this man in a red jacket. Sort of reminded me a little bit of Elvis.
Now he's turning Jenkins' life story into a movie titled The Calling.
You get fascinated by his charisma. And what is it, this thing that happens when he touches people? What happens when they fall down?
Though faith healing is generally thought to be a Christian tradition, there are Jewish practitioners as well.
Kabbalists have been healing throughout time.
Los Angeles Rabbi Fred Dweck has studied the Kabbalah, a type of Jewish mysticism, for 40 years.
The Torah, the 5 books of Moses, contain secrets about everything, the entire universe, in code. And the study of Kabbalah is basically the understanding of those codes, pulling out the secrets. One of the secrets is that God, during creation, provided for ways to get around nature or natural law.
Rabbi Dweck discovered that he had a gift for healing at an early age.
I found out at 7 years old that when I touched people, I knew what was going on inside of them. And over time, I found that I could relieve pain, I could do healing. More importantly, in the beginning at least, I could diagnose things that doctors weren't able to diagnose.
A typical case involved a woman sent to Dweck by her doctor.
He says to me, "Fred," he says, "I'm going to send you a patient who had a melanoma in her shoulder, but we got it all." When I put her on the table and I started to do what I do, I realized immediately that the melanoma had gone to her liver.
Dweck called the doctor and told him what he saw, but when the doctor did a scan, he found nothing.
I said, "Wait a month and do another scan," which is exactly what happened. He called me a month later. He says, "Fred, I found it." He said, "You beat the x-rays."
Rabbi Dweck claims that he uses the energy in the universe to heal his patients.
Can you feel a warmth going into you?
Yeah.
Stephanie Hechtman came to Rabbi Dweck for help with joint pain and chronic fatigue syndrome.
What's been going on with your intestines? Your small intestines and your colon feel irritated and weak.
My stomach's been upset.
That's the first time that I ever felt anything that powerful.
Is that very traumatic for you?
No, but I could feel the energy coming through a lot. A lot, and I felt it in my intestines. It was weird. I mean, it was good, but I could definitely feel it.
While faith healers are quick to claim success, there is no telling how many times they fail to cure the hopeful. But for Reverend Jenkins and Rabbi Dweck, even failure is a matter of faith. According to Dr. Koenig, the latest research not only corroborates the claims of these healers and their followers, it actually proves that religion makes people live longer.
People who attend religious services on a regular basis are about 40% more likely to be alive after a 6-year follow-up period than are people who aren't attending religious services. So the effect on a person's longevity of being a regular attender at religious services is equivalent to that of not smoking cigarettes.
Science has no conclusive explanation for these remarkable findings, but that doesn't diminish their impact.
The truth of the matter is there is so much that goes on in the universe that we don't know and we don't understand. And that doesn't mean it doesn't happen. It just means we don't know about it and we don't understand it.
God is going to bless you with everything that you need.
Is it a case of faith, fakery, or mind over matter?
Thou made whole in the name of Jesus.
To those who no longer suffer from pain or illness, the answer may be irrelevant. And countless believers will continue to defy the skeptics, reject conventional wisdom, and trust their lives to the mysterious power of faith.
The power of God be upon you from this day forward.
Coming up, could the fibers of this sacred cloth prove the very existence of God? Examine the Shroud of Turin. And did alien architects shape the wonders of the ancient world? You be the judge. But first, is science ready to breathe life into Frankenstein's monster? With scientists now poised to clone human beings, man at last has the power to create life. Will this breakthrough in biotechnology create a race of perfect specimens or a new species of man-made monsters? Are we in search of a better future or a world of future Frankensteins? In early horror films, an ambitious scientist plays God to create life for the benefit of mankind and his own glory. But instead of creating a man, he makes a monster. Frankenstein's monster then escapes from the lab and wreaks havoc on an unsuspecting world. Is this fantastic fiction or terrifying fact?
Probably the most frightening thing is the fact that science is progressing so rapidly that oftentimes discoveries are made before the public is even aware that they're a possibility.
Is modern science on the verge of bringing Frankenstein's monster to life? Or has the deed already been done? In search of answers, we follow a trail of mad scientists, bizarre experiments, and reanimated corpses.
My name is Victor Frankenstein. On a dreary night in November, I beheld the accomplishment of my toils. By the glimmer of the nearly burnt-out candle, I saw the dull yellow eye of the creature open, and his limbs begin to stir.
Mary Shelley was only 18 when she started writing Frankenstein. Published in 1818, this chilling tale of a monster created by man has fascinated people for almost 200 years.
I think the Frankenstein legend is so enduring because it speaks to the fears that people have about science. People are really afraid that science is stepping on the toes of God.
Mankind has tried for centuries to bring the dead back to life. And the real Frankenstein castle in Darmstadt, Germany, was the site of some of the earliest experiments. They were conducted by an 18th century alchemist named Johann Conrad Dippel, who called himself Dippel Frankensteiner. Like all physicians of his time, the real Dr. Frankenstein brought corpses to his laboratory and cut them open to learn more about human anatomy. But legend also has it that he did much more than just examine those bodies. He attempted to reanimate the dead with a formula of bones, hair, and human blood. And some accounts say that Conrad Dippel assembled the parts from different bodies to create a monster. Some locals even believe that his monster still wanders the nearby forest. Conrad Dippel's name has faded from history, but the macabre fascination with life and death did not end with his experiments. Because his work with dead bodies is so controversial, some people call Gunther von Hagens a modern-day Dr. Frankenstein. Also known as Mr. Plastinator, von Hagens creates art out of corpses. He replaces body fluids with silicone, epoxy, and polyester polymers, thus preserving bodies in their original form down to the last cell and vein. This vivid exhibit, called Körperwelten or Body Worlds, is currently on display in Germany. Von Hagens' accomplishment in preserving dead bodies pales in comparison to the work done by today's bioengineers. Dr. James J. Walter is a bioethicist at Loyola Marymount University in Los Angeles.
Genetic engineering is going to be any attempt to change, alter, modify, manipulate the genetic material of the human person.
Genetic engineering aims to create improved and enhanced life forms. Human genes will also be added to animals. Reproductive cloning, another form of bioengineering, is at the center of a firestorm of controversy, for it creates offspring identical to the DNA donor.
A lot of benefits can come from this, of course. Childless couples have a child.
Could the ability to genetically improve people cause more problems than it solves? Feelings about this topic run so high that many scientists involved in cloning research refuse to talk to us. Some think the cost in human terms would be immense, because cloning is currently an imperfect technology that usually produces deformed creatures. Hundreds of embryos were destroyed in the process of creating Dolly, the first cloned sheep. The same would be true in cloning humans.
The morality of experimenting on human embryos, knowing that we're going to destroy them, is problematic. I think we are improperly playing God with cloning.
Human cloning is banned in the United States as well as many other countries around the world. But that doesn't mean attempts aren't being made.
I'm guessing within 5 years we'll have a human clone.
Biochemist Brigitte Boissoulier is the science director of Clonaid.
The company Clonaid actually will be cloning a young baby who died just a few months ago. The cloning of this baby is, to me, a good way to show to everybody that it is possible to recreate ourselves, and that actually life is not mystical. Life is not a power of God.
If Clonaid is successful, will we, like Dr. Frankenstein, have brought the dead back to life?
I think the most frightening thing about it is, would they be the same? Would they be the same person that I loved when I bring them back?
We're not bringing back little Johnny who did die. It's genetically little Johnny, but it's not really little Johnny. What made Johnny who Johnny is all of his experiences and his life with the family and all of his friends.
Human cloning is clearly in our future. But exactly what will this scientific breakthrough bring? Will we create a class of superhumans? And what will happen to those who aren't genetically enhanced?
No, we've not thought this out. This is our typical pattern of scientific discoveries that we can just move forward and worry about controlling the damage down the line. Well, once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't control the damage.
The most frightening and most likely scenario is that ambitious scientists will allow their curiosity to override their common sense and create something they can't control.
We're going to make a monster, but like the Frankenstein monster, it will always exceed the expectations of the creator because now it's independent and it has a life of its own and it will seek to live its own life. And it's not going to be what I want it to be. Even though it will look like me, it's not going to be me, and I'm not going to bend it to my will because it will have its own will, just as the Frankenstein monster had its own will.
The fictional tale of Dr. Frankenstein and his monster has terrified people for almost 2 centuries. But if today's scientists turn that fiction into fact, the consequences could terrorize future generations forever. Later on In Search Of, did interplanetary visitors change the course of human evolution? We're in search of our alien ancestors. But first, the Shroud of Turin. Is this the authentic burial cloth of Jesus Christ? This scientist thinks he knows the truth. The Shroud of Turin. It may be the most sacred and controversial artifact in the world. The cloth that is said to have covered Jesus in his death has triggered a virtual holy war since its discovery in the Middle Ages. Is it a medieval fake or evidence of the resurrection? Now science has collided with faith in the quest to determine the true origin of the mysterious veil. He may be the most important figure of all time, and his death on the cross may be more famous than any moment in history. The crucifixion of Jesus Christ is reenacted each year in the Philippines. To honor Good Friday, the day Christ was crucified, volunteers are literally hung from the cross, enduring the unimaginable pain of nails being driven through their palms. They can only remain on the cross for a few agonizing minutes. We believe we know how Jesus died, but what happened to his body afterwards has been a subject of debate for centuries. In Turin, Italy, one frail artifact may hold the secret to the mystery. The Shroud of Turin is believed by many to be the actual burial cloth of Jesus Christ. It seems to show a faint imprint of his actual face and crucified body. The shroud was first publicly discovered and displayed in France in the 1300s. Since then, the shroud has been kept in this cathedral in Turin, Italy. The Catholic Church only occasionally allows the fragile cloth to be publicly displayed.
The question as to whether the shroud image is an authentic image of Jesus or not really is a scientific question. It's just since the advent of photography, when the shroud was photographed the first time, that scientific interest has been raised.
The very first photographs of the shroud were taken in the 19th century by an Italian named Secondo Pia. One of the first unexplained aspects of this mysterious cloth was revealed when processing the negative. The faint image of the shroud actually seemed to come alive in the sharp black and white contrast of the negative. The image clearly showed the details of a man's face and body. Modern-day Italian photographer Aldo Gorecki has used current techniques to fully study the photographic details of the shroud.
Il negativo fotografico di cui
The photographic negative, which I am showing you of the front and the back, reveals instead how this figure emerges as an absolutely perfect man.
presenti come un uomo assolutamente perfetto.
For example, at the level of the face, we start to see drops of blood around the hair and on the forehead, which were probably consequences of puncture wounds, probably referring to the crown of thorns.
Until modern science could more thoroughly study the Shroud of Turin, skeptics simply dismissed it as a painting. But if the shroud was a forgery from the Middle Ages, the artist would have placed wounds through the palms, duplicating the conventional artwork of the day. One of the controversial aspects of the shroud image was that it showed the nail wounds through the wrist instead of the palms of the hands. Recent scientific studies experimenting with the hands of cadavers proved that the only way to hold the weight of a body in crucifixion was by driving the nails through the wrist area. These studies confirmed this medical accuracy of the shroud. One of the strongest arguments against the cloth's authenticity occurred in the late 80s. The Catholic Church allowed the shroud to be tested using radiocarbon dating. This process determines an item's approximate age by measuring its exposure to carbon dioxide. A small sample along the edge of the precious cloth was used. The findings were a blow to shroud believers because the results dated it back to the time of the Middle Ages, when it was first discovered. However, many scientists see flaws in the results of these experiments. Dr. John Jackson believes that the chance for an accurate dating may have been lost forever when the shroud caught fire in 1532.
At the time of the 1532 fire, the carbon-14 content of the shroud linen was significantly altered by many centuries because of an interaction at elevated temperatures with the carbon dioxide in the air.
Carbon dating is not everything that people think it is. It's what we call rogue sampling. Many items have been carbon dating that have been wrong by thousands of years that we know what the date really was.
Dr. Frederick Zugaby is the medical examiner for Rockland County, New York. He also considers himself a forensic expert on the shroud.
Actually, I've been studying the Shroud of Turin for about 50 years. The medical examiner's specialty is reconstruction of mechanism, manner, and cause of death or injury.
Dr. Zugaby created his own crucifix apparatus to try to simulate its effects on the human body.
The nailing of the hands, the nailing of the feet, the length of time almost up to 6 hours on the cross there would cause shock.
Zugaby alleges that the stains on the shroud match the wounds that were inflicted on Jesus.
In collating it with the scriptures, the Shroud of Turin was extremely accurate. Rivulets of blood coming from the points of penetration of the crown of thorns, the various bruises on the face. There was over 100 scourge wounds on the whole body, front and back. The blood on all parts of the body, there is no image. What does that mean? It means that the blood was there before the image.
If Dr. Zugaby's forensic work shows evidence of a crucifixion, it is not yet proof that the victim was Jesus Christ. But one scientist's bizarre experiment may support that claim. We'll have the radioactive results when we come back.
This program contains images which may be disturbing to younger or sensitive viewers. Parental discretion is advised.
Could this be the true face of Jesus Christ? How was this image permanently imprinted on the Shroud of Turin? Some scientists believe that when his body was wrapped in a burial shroud and placed in a cave, at some point it was exposed to a powerful burst of radiation. It's believed that the radioactivity was created by the resurrection.
If it were a radiation effect, that caused the image. It would fit in with the biblical theory of the resurrection.
Those of us that believe in the resurrection, we know that that body went from a potentially corruptible state to an incorruptible state. Some biochemical transformation had to take place.
In an attempt to duplicate the radiation effect allegedly caused by the resurrection, Dr. Aceta submitted himself to a rare medical procedure where radioactive material was injected into his own body. He was then scanned and photographed to produce three-dimensional X-rays.
What I'd like to demonstrate here are similarities between what nuclear imaging would do from a real human subject compared to the Shroud image.
These computer images show the amazing effects of emitted nuclear radiation coming from his body. A slide image of the Shroud of Turin is placed on a light table, which the computer converts into a dramatic three-dimensional image. The radiated image of Dr. Aceta is remarkably similar to the unusual three-dimensional image found on the cloth of the Shroud.
So in our opinion, the image is due to some form of radiation. You don't have to reproduce a resurrection to appreciate an energy phenomena occurring within the cloth, giving rise to an anatomically accurate image of the body inside the shroud. The totality of the scientific argument is that this is the burial cloth of Jesus. We have more evidence that this is the case than we have evidence of most things that we call fact in the world today.
For as many scientists that maintain that the Shroud is authentic, there are other members of the scientific community that still have their doubts. In the search for answers, we may be verging on a breakthrough. Until we have definitive proof, the Shroud of Turin will remain a matter of faith. E.T. may not be as alien as you think. Some shocking evidence that we may all have extraterrestrial ancestors. Next on In Search Of. The pyramids of Egypt represent one of mankind's greatest accomplishments. Or do they? Is it possible that the stunning breakthroughs of early civilizations are actually evidence of close encounters that changed the course of history and human evolution? And if UFOs did fill the ancient sky, was technology all they left behind? You be the judge, as we go in search of our alien ancestors. The engineering feats of ancient civilizations have been a source of endless mystery.
The megalithic structures are the evidence of a worldwide culture in antiquity that was highly superior, highly advanced relative to us.
Have our achievements always been the product of human imagination? Or did we make a giant leap into the future with the help of alien intervention?
Real engineers and architects look at those same structures, they're blown away. They can't see how ancient man could have even built these amazing structures.
Some experts contend that the Giza Pyramid's many chambers were specifically designed to create microwave radiation. There is also evidence that ancient civilization had another modern source of energy.
We know that the ancients had electricity, as incredible as it seems. German archaeologists have found an ancient battery in Baghdad. They know that it was used for electroplating. This battery is over 2,000 years old.
Could primitive man alone have developed this advanced technology?
One way to possibly explain all of these mysterious technological devices is literally alien intervention. Extraterrestrials coming here with their advanced technology and then giving it to mankind or using it with them.
One of the most convincing discoveries that supports this controversial theory lines the walls of an Egyptian pyramid.
We're here 50 miles north of the city of Luxor in the Valley of the Kings.
Georgios Tsoukalos, editor of the legendary Times, goes deep into the 5,000-year-old chamber.
And this is why we came here. How did the ancient Egyptians illuminate the inside of their temples if they did not have mirrors, if they did not have torches, if they weren't able to carve these stones outside? Well, could they have used electric light bulbs?
It's commonly believed that burning torches provided the only light here. But torches would have left extensive evidence of scorch marks throughout the cavernous chambers. Researchers are puzzled to find that none exist. There is one possible explanation.
To the modern eye, this spontaneously reminds of a light bulb, of an electric light bulb.
The symbol of energy, the snake, is encased in a clear tube. It serves as a filament, just like a modern light bulb.
The secret of electricity was given to the Egyptians by the extraterrestrials.
Across the globe in South America, there is more compelling evidence of alien intervention. An amulet was found in the Cumbia region of Colombia that dates back to 500 AD. It has aerodynamic features that were not developed until the 20th century. It has delta-shaped wings like modern warplanes. The triangle-shaped rudder allows for high-speed maneuverability. Some experts compare the design to our own space shuttle. Two researchers decided to test the aerodynamics of the amulet. They built a larger model with a radio-controlled engine.
The fascinating thing is that this model shape is almost 1,500 years old.
If this artifact is evidence of ancient aerospace technology, who would have flown the original machine? Located deep in the jungles of Mexico, amidst ruins of the ancient Mayan civilization, sits the Temple of the Inscriptions. Inside this structure is a tomb decorated with an image of the god Pakal. The carving features a man flying what appears to be a spaceship. His hands are working controls and he's attached to what looks like a breathing apparatus. Emanating from the engine of the ship are flames. Could this be an alien visitor? In his book, Technology of the Gods, writer David Hatcher Childress claims that the science fiction fantasy of the early 20th century may have already been a reality thousands of years ago.
When you read the ancient Indian epics, like the Ramayana and the Mahabharata, they read like the wildest science fiction. People are flying around in airships called vimanas. They're blasting each other with ray guns. Entire cities are decimated by these airships.
This prehistoric Australian painting illustrates a humanoid creature with the enlarged head and eyes commonly attributed to the alleged extraterrestrials known as Greys. But some researchers say that advanced technology was not the only evidence of an alien presence. Lloyd Pye believes that we are the living offspring of extraterrestrials. His shocking theory when we come back. Was early technology a gift from alien visitors? Some suggest that our entire species is of extraterrestrial origin.
I believe that human beings are descended from an alien race of beings off Earth, and that the evidence is very clear in both our genes and in written history that the superior race lived on Earth in the distant past.
The primary historical source for this shocking conclusion is the extensive writing of the Sumerian civilization. The Sumerians thrived in Mesopotamia in 3800 BC.
They came out of the Stone Age approximately 6,000 years ago and walked right into a very highly advanced civilization that produced over 100 of the firsts that we attribute to civilization.
According to Lloyd Pye, they attribute the origins of their rapid growth to aliens called the Anunnaki.
The Anunnaki are a race of beings that are very human-like in their physical structure. And what they said is that the people from Nibiru, the Anunnaki, came to Earth around 400,000 years ago, needing to mine gold. That was their primary need, was to take gold to repair their atmosphere. In the same way that we're destroying our atmosphere in our rise to a high technology, they had damaged their atmosphere and needed to repair it.
Pye says the Anunnaki genetically engineered slaves to mine the gold, and in the process, transformed Neanderthal man into Cro-Magnon man.
They wanted their new slave to be better adapted physically to the planet than they were. So the creatures of Earth would be some creature that was indigenous to the planet, that would be upright walking, that would be able to blend with their genetic code and produce a hybrid that would be fertile and be able to reproduce itself ad infinitum.
Lloyd Pye claims the Anunnaki used the Neanderthal, a species of early man, as their guinea pigs.
They took some of the genes of the creatures of Earth, some of the essence of the creatures of Earth, and mixed it with themselves, mostly themselves, because they wanted a slave and a servant that was like them. And the product of that genetic manipulation project was the Adamu, or human beings as we are today.
Lloyd Pye believes that this skull, labeled Star Child, may be the remains of an alien-human hybrid.
The Star Child is a skull that was found 60 to 70 years ago. We think we have an example of a hybridization process between an alien and a human. This could be perhaps the single most amazing and compelling proof that there is a hybridization process being carried out by beings on another planet.
He cites other discrepancies in the fossil record.
If you look at the skulls and body bones of all of the prehumans, they have sloping foreheads, huge brow ridges, big round night vision eyes, big wide nasal passages, mouths that stick off their face, no chins, heavy robust bones, extraordinarily long arms, all of the above. Nothing about that is human. Suddenly, at around 120,000 years ago in the fossil record, 200,000 years ago, according to our genes, human beings come on the scene, Cro-Magnon, whatever you care to call us, and we have everything different. That's impossible except through genetic manipulation.
Though there is no biological hard evidence to support these controversial theories, even skeptics are hard-pressed to explain the rapid advance of early civilization. So while most scientists search for our ancestors in the rocks and soil here on Earth, there are others who look to the stars. Thanks for watching In Search Of. I'm Mitch Pileggi. Good night.